This program is sponsored by Dave Stahl.
Don't talk bad.
Welcome to YAK Radio, the radio show that's about, well, who knows? It's a different topic every week, but YAK Radio is always full of information to help you and your family get through life. Now here's your YAK Radio host, Dave Stahl.
Don't talk bad.
All right, folks, welcome to YAK Radio with Dave Stahl on FM 96.1, AM 1170, The Answer. Hey, I want to throw out a little car show, September 26th, 3 p.m., Pacific Islander Beer Company. It is a Volkswagen car show. 80-plus Volkswagens, beers, raffle, and food. How could you beat it? September 26th, 3 to 7 p.m., street and parking lot at Pacific Islander Beer Company. All right, hey, guess what? We've got our good buddies back again. We got to talk about the advertisers first. San Diego Propane. If you live out in East County and you're looking for a good, honest, family-owned propane company, San Diego Propane is where you need to be. Go to sdpropane.com or give Dave a call, 619-460-1705. And for automotive repairs, 4 locations, West Escondido Auto and Transmissions. Go to westautomotivegroup.com. Find out all the locations, either in El Cajon, Escondido, San Diego, or Miramar Road that fits your need. Again, Mercedes and Andy Lilienthal's on the line. Hey, guys, how you doing?
Good. We're doing good. How are you?
Oh, just living the dream. How's the weather up there? You guys getting through the fires okay?
Yeah, finally. It's day 2 of no smoke. Thank God. It was unbelievable up here.
Yeah, it was touch and go. We were only a couple miles away from the evacuation first level to get prepared to leave for well over a week, and that was pretty scary. And we had fires and stuff very near us. So thankfully, that's at least backed off a bit, and we're praying and thinking of everybody that's fighting the fires and everybody that's affected.
Yeah, I'm telling you. By the way, ever since I met you, have you ever heard of a web or a Facebook post called Obscure Cars for Sale?
Absolutely. I'm totally a part of that group.
You drive me crazy. Did you see that little, what was it, a Nissan four-wheel drive, right-hand drive little camper? That
I didn't see that one, but I can envision what it looks like.
Well, I thought of you immediately when I seen that. And if I was technically savvy enough to send it to you, I would have, but I just didn't understand how to do it.
I'll have to take a look at that.
Yeah, you got me.
One more.
And, speaking of that, I did not realize, because, see, I was from the old school, gray market cars, anything overseas could never, come to the United States without spending billions of dollars making it legal to be driven in the United States. But that is that ruling and that all gone by the wayside, and it has to do with what, the year of the vehicle?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So the United States has a 25-year import law. So if the vehicle is never federalized, and never sold in this country through a dealership, it has to be at least 25 years old before you can bring it in, and that is generally a universal kind of thing.
I couldn't wait to ask you this because I had a sneaky feeling that was the case, which has really opened the doors to some of the coolest cars on the planet, really, if you're a car guy or a car girl.
Oh, yeah,
very much so.
Yeah, absolutely. The interesting thing, by the way, our friends in Canada, they have a similar rule, but it's only 15 years. So they get some of the really cool stuff that the U.S. never got, and they get it 10 years before we do. So I have a friend in Phil up in Calgary, for instance, he's selling I believe it's a 97 Mitsubishi Pajero Evolution. This was the homologation special that Mitsubishi had to produce in order to put the Pajero in the Dakar Rally. And there was very, very few of them made worldwide. He's got one. He's actually selling it, but those of us in the United States can't even buy it legally. So
we could just drool over it.
Yeah. Well, there was a 65 Nissan Patrol. When's the last time you've seen one of those? 8,500, boom, sold it. So anyway, I just had to bounce that off you because I had a sneaky feeling And wouldn't that be a great TV series? You know, kind of like American Pickers, but have obscure cars. You know, and you guys could host it, and because you guys are so into obscure cars, I don't know anybody that I know of that's as madly in love with them as much as you. How many do you own?
We have five kind of oddball cars.
See, I told you. I've got 5 MR2s, and people think I'm crazy, but I always throw your name out there as well because his are weirder than mine. They're all right-hand drive, most of them, 4-wheel drives, and what, diesels?
3 diesels, three 4-wheel drives. Yeah,
right, and they're all stick shifts too. They're all manual transmission.
And yes, folks, it's not just hubby. Wifey is into them just as much as he is. So, So what are we talking about today?
Lots of stuff. We sold one of our Mitsubishi Delica vans, our 4x4 van. We got a newer one, so we're kind of excited to talk about that and how we got it, where we got it, what changes are we doing with it, all that good stuff.
Sort of the latest addition to the oddball fleet.
Yeah.
Right.
So because I think, didn't you put quite a bit of time and money and effort into the last Pajero? Now you got rid of it and got a newer one. Why was that? Just got tired of it, or better features? What?
So it's actually a Delica. So Delica is a 4-wheel drive Mitsubishi van, and we did have an '89 Mitsubishi Delica Star Wagon, and then it's powered by a little 2.5-liter turbo diesel non-intercooled engine. And we drove that little thing all over the place, all the way from Portland down to Arizona a couple of times, up to south central part of British Columbia,
down to Death Valley. We camped out of it.
Death Valley a couple of times in it, but it was just time to move on. It was a great little vehicle. We called it the Space Tractor because it sort of looked like a 80s sci-fi.
It did.
On Mars.
It did.
And then, what we ended up getting was the successor model. So it's called a Mitsubishi Delica Space Gear. So it's much more rounded off looking, but it also has quite a bit more power. So instead of making about 89 horsepower and 140 foot-pounds of torque, it makes about 140 horsepower and 232 foot-pounds of torque. So it'll keep up with traffic. It'll accelerate, faster than a glacier.
Yeah, you're gonna have to downshift when you go up hills.
Yeah, oh, the luxury. So, but it's a much more civilized, much more powerful, pretty much just easier to live with, on a day-to-day basis.
Gotcha. How do you find parts?
It's kind of one of those things where once you sort of figure it out, you sort of get it. So there's a number of the JDM, kind of oddball community is fairly tight knit, and you kind of learn where to get them. There's a number of websites out there. One is called Partssouk, SOUQ.
Yep.
Amayama.com, Megazip.net. These are sites where you enter in your chassis code because these don't have VIN numbers; they have chassis codes. And you enter in your chassis code, and it'll spit out exactly what vehicle it is, and just hundreds of exploded view diagrams, all with part numbers and whatnot, and you can order from there. Unfortunately, with COVID right now, international shipping is really messed up, and it's taking it can take months to get parts from Japan right now, for instance. So,
I think it took 2 months for us to get air filters for the Pajeros, the little SUVs.
Yeah. So the good news is. Because, like we had mentioned, Canada has a 15-year rule, and they've had these vehicles for 10 years before we have. A lot of the times there are a number of shops, especially in British Columbia, that will get parts, and we can get parts from them. So there's a place called Coombs County Auto on Vancouver Island, and I've ordered a number of things, and we'll be ordering even more things from them. I mean, I just ordered a replacement rear door latch for this new van that we got, for instance. And, while it's not necessarily cheap, with the Canadian dollar being what it is, it's, I think, 1.23 to 1 American to Canadian. So it all kind of comes out in the wash in terms of whether you order it here, whether you order it in the UK. But I'll tell you what, before COVID, we could get parts,
from 5 days.
Yeah, I got an entire parts kit for one of these Pajeros from the UK in like 4 days.
Yeah.
I got a water pump from the Philippines in 5 days.
Sure.
I can't send my mother a postcard in Wisconsin in 5 days.
Yeah,
so.
isn't that the truth? You can't even mail your neighbor. Hey, let's take a quick break. When we come back, I should change it from Yak Radio with Dave Stahl to Obscure Cars with Mercedes and Andy on FM 96.1 AM 1170. The Answer. All right, folks. Hey, welcome back. You are listening to Yak Radio with Dave Stahl on FM 96.1 AM 1170. The Answer. This segment brought to you by Bumper Dock Santee. Go to 8711 Magnolias Street, Santee, right underneath the freeway. Go to SanteeBumperDock.com for scratches, dings, dents, headlight restoration, body work, bumper repair, and mainly if you have a lease return vehicle, you signed on the dotted line that you would return that vehicle back in the same condition you picked it up. And if you don't have it totally detailed out and waxed and in good condition, they will charge you retail. So don't let that happen. Go to SanteeBumperDock.com. Tell them you heard it right here on KCBQ. Also, San Diego Gear and Axle. If you got a two-wheel drive, you want to go four-wheel drive, Steve can do it. You got any kind of issues with your undercarriage, that's the answer. San Diego Gear and Axle. Anything to do with the undercarriage, Steve is the man. Go to SDGearAxle.com, SDGearAxle.com. All right, we got Mercedes and Andy on the line. We've been talking everything obscure vehicles. They've kind of got themselves into a situation where they're kind of the guru of this industry. Not only do they buy them and drive them, but they do off-road events with them. They go on adventures, and you can follow them around. The easiest way is?
Probably Instagram. We're at Crankshaft Culture. Also Facebook at Crankshaft Culture. We do have Twitter at Crankshaft Cult, a YouTube channel, and then, of course, crankshaftculture.com.
Excellent. So you're working on this vehicle, and what's the goal? Because I noticed you've got quite a few sponsors like BF Goodrich, Coastal Off-Road, Long Range America, Wanderlust Overland, Light Force USA, and Warren Industries. What is the goal with this new vehicle?
That's a really great question. We
Not keep it stock.
Yeah, the goal is to make it a capable travel vehicle. Where the last one was we called it the Space Tractor. We kind of jokingly call this one the Travel Tractor every now and then. And
it doesn't have a name yet.
Yeah, but the goal is to turn this into a capable, go anywhere camper van. So our last Mitsubishi Delica Star Wagon was just that. It had a winch on the front. It had some all-terrain tires, and we had 10 extra gallons of fuel on it and all that stuff. And we took it all over the place. And the goal is to really get out there and see stuff, explore, and do it in a capable vehicle.
Well, and that's both on and off-road as well. So, not only will it be a tarmac warrior, it'll also be, tackling dirt and sand and some rocks and a lot of gravel and things like that, too.
Are there any off-road events you're planning for this little rascal, like the Alcan 5000 maybe?
We could.
We could take it on the Alcan 5000.
We
are signed up for the Alcan 5000 2022, which is the summer Alcan rally. So, but we're not sure if we would take the van or we'd take the Pajero that we did last time. So.
Yeah, we still have both of the Pajeros, Dave. The one that we built up for that rally, the 5,000-mile Winter Arctic Rally, and then we still have another one, which now has a new engine, so thank goodness it's running on the roads again.
Well, I'm glad to hear, because I was curious if you were going to go back and do the winter again, but I didn't know they did a summer event, so I think that would be probably my preference. I'd probably want to do both of them as well, so to do that should be a lot of fun, and I think you guys know more today than you did when you started the Alcan, which would make that trip even more enjoyable.
Right, exactly, yeah. So the Alcan 5000 rally runs just like the Olympics normally do, where it's every 2 years is the winter, then 2 years is summer, then 2 years is winter. So the cadence is 2022 will be summer. So you're not battling snow and ice per se, but you're battling all the mosquitoes, and some of the mud if there's rain. So
potholes, dirt roads.
Yeah.
All that stuff, and I'm sure if it's anything like the the Alcan 5000 Winter Rally, you're also battling very long days, a very long time behind the wheel every single day.
A lot of potential body rash on the vehicles, cracked windshields, cracked headlights, all that good stuff. So we've learned a lot of what we should be doing, even more so to prepare whatever vehicle we're going to take next time around.
Right. So, but you haven't decided. You may just take the vehicle you already have. Do some freshening up on it, if anything. We
may, yeah. You never know with us.
Well, I was just going to say, knowing you'd probably get a checker cab and say, hey, let's put four-wheel drive under it. This ought to be fun.
Heck yeah, we can turn that into a gambler-type car.
God, I'm telling you, I don't know how you found her, Andy. Boy, you have a gem. You have a true gem. Because not being sexist, but most wives would say, no, I want to go on a cruise ship. No, I want to go to Hawaii and stay in a resort. Not this one. Give me the roughest off-road race known to man, and that's where I'll go. Love that girl.
Well, pretty much. If there's any cruise ship involved, it would be basically a ferry to go. One of our dreams we'd love to do is to go east. Go out to the East Coast and maybe take our van, head over via ferry to Iceland, and then head over to Europe. And we've got lofty thoughts. You never know where we're going to go.
Can you imagine taking your van to Europe and traveling Europe? Oh, my.
Yeah, it would be amazing.
I'd do it tomorrow if I could.
Oh, my gosh. I think you guys need to work on that. Get the Discovery Channel. You need to get them in your back pocket and, do like that Bourdain guy does, goes around and eats weird food. But you can go over there and travel in one of your vehicles. Ooh, I think that'd be great. You need to work on that.
Yeah, we could meet all the weird owners over there with weird vehicles, right? Yeah.
And I think you should call it Obscure Cars Around the World. I think that'd be a great title. I bet you the History Channel would jump all over it because they put some pretty weird shows on.
And then I like that. We'll have to talk about that afterwards.
I know. Well, yeah, I had a buddy of mine tell me I come up with the greatest ideas for other people. It's just an amazing talent that I have. But you know what? I think I'm saying it because I would watch that show just like you would watch that show. I would watch that show over the U.S. Top Gear, if you get my drift. I'm not into stupid comedy shows of people that I think are not all that sharp when it comes to automotive. But for you to do these trips, it's kind of like Food Network, Guy Fieri and diners, drive-ins, and dives. But you'd be doing it in a really cool vehicle that most people have never even seen before. So you need to think about that when we get off air, and I'd start working on it. And I'll bet you History Channel is always, always, always looking for content, and you guys would be perfect.
Duly noted.
Well, we'll have to check that out. We'll have to think about that.
Well, it's not like you don't have sponsors. What did I just mention? BF Goodrich, Coastal Off-Road, Long Range America, Wanderlust, Light Force USA, and Warren Winches or Warren Industries. And that's just a tip of the iceberg. People would be all over that show, I think.
Yeah, and it certainly would, combine two things that we really, really love, which is, of course, cars, oddball cars, and travel. Two of the things that we love the most are cars and travel.
Well, that's how we met too. So,
yeah, and then you could throw food in there. I don't know if you guys like to eat. Neither one of you are very chunky, so you guys look like you eat at least healthy. But, that could be part of – there's so many entities. You just need to kind of put this little show – in fact, I got a friend of mine that does – he's retired now, but he used to do TV producing he used to do movies on motocross in the 70s, 80s, and 90s.
Oh, nice.
So maybe I'll hook you two up together. He's from England. He's a super, super great guy, and I'm sure he could share some of his content because it's all about context. You got to find the contact, who you got to talk to, who you're going to get it in there.
Right.
All right.
It's all about networking.
Yeah, we actually, we kind of got into this. I've always had a thing for kind of different vehicles, but we really kind of got into this because when we were in New Zealand in 2016, and Mercedes' godmother lives there, and she had one of these vans, and
the older version.
And I walked up, and we walked over to the car, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, is this your car?" And she says, "Yeah," and I'm like, I'm like over the moon I'm like a kid who just saw a Lamborghini for the first time.
Right.
It's like a $4,000 van.
It's literally dented. It's rusting. It's banged up. It's like looks like it barely ran because it does actually barely run. But sorry, Helga.
But yeah, I mean, I was just like, oh my gosh, this is so neat. And she said, do you want to drive it? And I'm like, yeah. And I fell in love with it. And I wrote an article about it on Crankshaft Culture shortly after we returned. And it was funny to go back and read it. And just recently I went back and read that article 4 years ago, from 4 years ago. And it was funny how I described what it was like to drive it and how I think someday I would love to have one. Well, I didn't expect to get one as soon as we did. On our return.
I think it was only a couple months afterwards when we bought it, and now we've sold that one. We own 3 different right-hand drives, so we kind of fell face first in the whole segment, so to speak.
That is so funny. But you know what? I totally get it. You'll see something all of a sudden. Like me and my Toyota MR2s. I get one, then I got to get another one, then I got to get another. Now I got 5 of them, just like you guys do. So, yeah, no, I totally get it. I totally get it. I get, and the hunting for the parts is difficult. The electrical parts on these Toyotas or these Japanese cars don't, stand up like you wish they would, and the prices of them are starting to get higher and higher because they're getting scarcer and scarcer.
Yep.
Yeah, it's absolutely. We're currently troubleshooting a gauge cluster issue on one of our Mitsubishi Pajeros, where it constantly reads that the engine is at operating temperature, even if it's been sitting for a week.
Yeah, that's the Alcan rig too from the rally. Thank goodness that happened after the rally.
We know that it started happening it
happened once, didn't it?
Well, it started in Inuvik, and it was about 42 below zero, and the temperature gauge started going up and down and up and down and up and down. I thought, I kind of tapped the dashboard, and then it went back to cold, which is where it should have been. And then just, about a month ago, I noticed that, this thing, I hadn't run it in a couple of weeks, and I noticed that the temperature gauge had warm. I thought, well, I'll pull that dashboard apart, and there's some, could be a cold solder joint on the dashboard, and so down the rabbit hole we go. So, but this all comes, this comes along with owning a unique older vehicle.
Yeah.
So
it's a labor of love and a labor of money.
Well, yeah, because back in the day when I was a kid, I mean, you drove your car for 3 days, worked on it for 2, drove it for 4 days, worked on it for 1, and it was just natural. You knew what underneath the hood, you knew the electrics, you knew the mechanicals, and things just happened. Today, we are so spoiled that we expect our car to start and never act up for 300,000 miles. Don't even go there. All right.
Yeah.
Hey, let's take it.
Does.
Okay, let's go ahead and take a quick break. We come back. We got a whole lot more to talk to Mercedes and Andy about. And if you want to check them out a little deeper, go to Crankshaft Culture on Instagram. You'll see tons of cool pictures and see all their fun cars. But right now, we're going to take a quick break. This is FM 96.1, AM 1170, The Answer. All right, folks, welcome back. You are listening to FM 96.1, AM 1170, The Answer. This is YAK Radio with Dave Stahl, but we're calling it Obscure Cars with Mercedes and Andy. And this segment is brought to you by 3D Products. If you're looking to buy a new or used car, the first thing you need to do is take your kids down and teach them how to detail your car. Well, they have detail clinics. Give them a call at 760-871-8000 or in South Bay, 619-575-9274. Or just go to their website at smartcarcareproducts.com. Sign up once they start the classes and teach your kids how to take care of that expensive vehicle, because the most expensive repair on it is usually the paint job. All right, we're talking to Mercedes and Andy Lilienthal. They're you're in Oregon, right?
Yeah, that's right.
All right, so what do you want to chat about this segment?
Oh, how about upgrades that we want to do with the van?
Sure, what do you got?
Oh, gosh, you want to take away with tires?
Yeah, so the first thing, we were lucky that we needed good tires, right? So that's the best modification you can do, I think, to any vehicle, no matter what kind. If it's an on-road, off-road, is good tires. So our van's got BF Goodrich KO2 all-terrain tires on there. So we've got 5 of those, and then the next thing that we're currently doing is we're having coastal off-road front and rear bumpers installed. It's a fabricated kit. So in other words, they flat pack basically a whole bunch of parts, and you weld it up and then have it powder coated and so on. So we're working with Wanderlust Overland in Oregon City. They're fabbing up the bumper, and then we're going to have that powder coated. And so
along with the front and rear bumper, we're going to do a front skid plate as well. And then on the rear, there's going to be a swing away tire and Jerry can carrier as well. So
yeah, and so
currently being worked on.
Right, exactly. That's currently being fabbed up. So we'll put a Warren Xeon 8S winch in the front of that bumper. We have some Light Force lights going to go on the front bumper as well. And then so that's kind of the next thing that we are doing. After that, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to add to that. So Wanderlust Overland out of Oregon City right now, they're the install and fab shop. So they are currently welding things together. I've been over there for the last couple of days. There will be a lot of documentation on Crankshaft culture on social and also .com. And then also I write for several different automotive publications, so it may show up there too, whether it's, how to do this or, review on the product or things like that. So the last couple of days I've been over at Wanderlust. We just got the Light Force USA lights in. We've got two different sets of lights from Light Force. We've got the Rock 40 floodlights that are going in the front bumper itself. And then we have some Xeon, Venom lights, Venom lights that are 6-inch round, both LEDs, and those are going to be on top of the bumper for added light.
So, Andy, let me ask you, because since you seem to be the one that placing these winches, have you ever thought to put a winch in the rear?
Yeah, that's actually a good question.
Yeah, great question.
We do get that from time to time. The theory on it, at least my theory on it, is this. So if you're on the trail, and let's say you come to a mud hole and you get stuck in the mud hole, a winch on the front will allow you to pull yourself through it. If you have a winch on the back, you'll get pulled out of the mud hole, but you're still going to have to go through it anyway. Mm-hmm. So some people run front and rear winches. Like if you do get stuck, let's say you get stuck in a ditch and you need to be pulled backwards. Rear winch can be very helpful with that.
Or if you're helping a fellow competitor, let's say, you see somebody that rolled off into a ditch, and instead of trying to turn your vehicle around and figure out a way to lock it down, I don't know. To me, winches are not all that expensive nowadays, and I'm thinking if you're fabbing a rear bumper, wouldn't that be cool? Because everybody will say, "Hey, look at that! He's got a rear winch in that thing. That's really cool." Yeah. Well, I used to do recovery and evacuation in the Army for 3 years, so when it comes to pulling things out of the mud, you're right. You want to drive through it, but there's a lot of times when you need to go back the way you came and then go another route. But anyway, just thought I'd throw that out there because you're using Warren winches.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Warren's been around since 1948. Yep. They've been making winches since 1959. And so they know a thing or two about winches. I should say, too, that, full disclosure, I actually work for Warren Industries. So, so it's a natural fit.
All right, Andy, I got it all figured out. Walk over to the head engineer of winches and say, I've got this vehicle. You probably never heard of it. And you probably couldn't make me a winch for the rear. But if you could think about it, and that guy will go catch on fire. His hair will catch on fire. He'll get to the design board or the CAD machine. He'll have you a winch within a week. What do you want to bet?
Yeah, I'm going to pass on that one.
but made in the USA, so it's design headquarters just outside of Portland. But we actually have a couple of different plans for the rear. Like I mentioned, we do have a rear bumper with swing away tire and jerry can holder. Right. But that will be bracketed underneath because it'll be basically affixed to the frame. But another thing that we're going to be doing on Slow Boat right now, getting over here, is a replacement diesel tank that is going to be about twice the size of the stock OE tank for us for fuel. And that is a long-range automotive tank out of Australia. So it's coming Slow Boat via our U.S. distributor friends, Long Range America, that are based in Idaho. That plus the coastal off-road bracketry and the way that we mount the rear underneath to be able to hold the weight of that, swing-away tire carrier and jerry can holder, that's probably going to eat up all that space. So we couldn't really, put the winch on the back.
Gotcha.
But, Andy, I know at Warren they've got the portable one too. You could, mount it from the front to the back, and you can actually, put the winch on both spots if you wanted to.
Yeah,
right.
You've probably seen these. We call them multi-mounts, and it's a cradle. And so you put your winch on the cradle, and you can move it in and out of a Class 2 receiver.
Sure.
And so it's a real nice portable option.
Really? I didn't know they had that. I'm definitely going to go on Warren.com, take a look at that, because, like I said, I can never get enough winches, and I love Warren winches. I think they're the best on the market. Like I said, made in the U.S. of A. And if anybody knows how to pull you out of a ditch, it's a Warren winch. I mean, but sounds like a commercial. But no, I don't think it is at all. And all right, well, and then now let me ask you this, because I'm a big jerry can kind of a guy. I'm not a fan of plastic water jugs or fuel jugs. Are you still able to get a metal jerry can, or are you stuck with polyurethane plastic type jerry cans?
Well, because we're going to have a jerry can allowance, an actual carrier there, because we're getting a long-range America tank, that's going to double our fuel capacity to about, I think it's 125 liters if I remember correctly. So that'll be probably about 500 miles of range. We're not going to use that carrier in the back for fuel. We're actually going to use that for water.
Gotcha.
So we've got a Lifesaver jerry can container that basically is a water filtration system and also a 5-gallon water holder.
Oh.
So we're going to put that back there. But yeah, good question. I mean, you do have metal, you do have, different plastic containers for fuel. If you wanted to run fuel, there are, like up in Canada, they're illegal here, but up in Canada, you've got Scepter cans, things like that up there.
There's a whole host of, there's another brand called Wavian. Wavian still makes metal cans.
That was my question. I was wondering if they're, again, coming from the Army, everything was metal, whether it be water, fuel, whatever the case may be.
Right.
Gotcha.
Yeah, we run both. Honestly, we bought some cheapies, like you can get them at any hardware store or, outdoor store. They've just got the red metal jerry can.
Yep.
They're $20.
Adam.
Yeah, I think ours came from there. And they worked totally well. We used to carry 10 gallons of fuel on our little off-road trailer that we have. But we the van, we tried some plastic ones, and they worked very well. They leaked a little bit, but you needed to. They actually had a tool that you really needed to crank down on the cap so they didn't spill out.
That's why I was talking about metal, because especially if you go on the Alcan or any kind of an off-road, and you've got to really cinch those things down, the last thing you need is something cracking and losing fuel or water. Doesn't make any difference. Water is a killer, but fuel, if you're losing fuel, that's not very environmentally safe. So I was just curious, and I was glad for you to let people know that there is an opportunity to get a metal can if that's your choice.
Yes, right. Yeah, there are both that are available in the States here, but truth be told, when we ran the Alcan 5000 Rally, we got an auxiliary diesel tank, which means a second tank for our Mitsubishi Pajero, which is a little, four-wheel drive SUV, kind of like a Montero essentially in the States.
Mm-hmm.
We got that auxiliary, so we ran two tanks, right? So we had the main tank, and then we had the auxiliary tank, and we just pushed a button on the inside, and it transferred fuel as we drove. Wow. We got so spoiled with that because we weren't sitting outside at negative 20 below when other people had to fill up their jerry cans outside in the freezing cold, blowing wind, with whatever, whether it's metal or plastic. We literally just pushed a button and waited, and then we, went to the gas station and grabbed diesel again next time.
You just didn't want to say, Andy, you do it. And Andy say, no, you do it. No, you do it. No, you do it. I did it last time.
Right?
I'll tell you what, we had an experience where we were leaving Inuvik, and there was we're headed back south, and there was a gas station in Fort McPherson.
Yep.
And everybody thought they were going to stop there and fuel up. Well, they were closed. They just didn't open up.
I think it was 9 a.m. or 9:30 a.m. We all thought, they're going to be open.
Well, we had enough fuel that we didn't have to worry about it. But most teams had to stop at the Arctic Circle, quite literally at the Arctic Circle, and empty their jerry cans into their gas cans. And it was so cold that one of our buddy cars, they were in a Jeep. They were emptying that fuel, and the nozzle was plastic, and the nozzle cracked and broke off and broke off in the fuel neck of their Jeep.
Oh no!
Yeah,
plastic does really weird things when it gets that cold.
This is true. Luckily, they were able to fish it out, but if they weren't, they wouldn't have been able to get fuel in there, or it would have been difficult.
They'd still be there.
Why, with this build, we decided to go with Long Range America again, and you pay for it, but you know what? It's quality. We've put our Pajero one through the ringer, and we since then 415 treated some of the rust that started underneath it, and the guy who did the mechanical work on it, or just we hired to do the job, had a lift and whatnot. He said, you know what? I don't want to paint this tank because A, it's a work of art, and B, it's still in perfect condition. So we're like, we got to do it for the new van. So we're getting a replacement one.
Yeah. So, folks, if you got anything out of the moral of that story is don't go cheap if you're going to go off-road to a point where there's no services, right?
Buy once, cry once.
Yeah, buy once, cry once. We've lived and learned plenty of times, so everybody does.
Oh, it'd be hell taking my wife anywhere because, boy, she'll squeeze a nickel, make the Indian ride the buffalo. So that's awesome. So let's go ahead and take a quick break. When we close, let's talk about what the future is for you guys, whether it's a Discovery Channel show or a History Channel or National Geographic. All three would be the ones I would contact Monday with an outline of what you want to do. But stay tuned, folks. This is FM 96.1 AM 1170, The Answer. All right, folks, welcome back. This is FM 96.1 AM 1170. This is YAK Radio with Dave Stahl, but we're calling it Obscure Cars with Mercedes and Andy Lilienthal. They're up in Oregon, and they love right-hand drive, manual transmission, diesel and gas, obscure little vehicles that you've never seen in your life. And I'm sure once one of these little rascals passes you up, the cell phones come out and the photos start snapping. This segment is brought to you by John's Automotive Import Repair, 7447 University Avenue. It's one of John's second stores. Go to johnsandiegooautorepair.com. ASE certified, Napa Auto Care, AAA approved. You could get your vehicle worked on there and go anywhere in the United States, and the warranty follows you. So check them out. All right, we got Mercedes and Andy on the line. How you guys doing? This is your last segment.
Great.
Good. It's funny. You were saying the cell phones come out and stuff like that. One of the things I always tell people, especially when they buy one of these vans that looks so different than anything else that was ever really sold here in the U.S., I always tell, you better be ready for the attention because you can't go anywhere without people wanting to ask you.
Yeah,
you're trying to get fuel, and hey, is that a diesel? Is that four-wheel drive? Is that a manual? Are you on the? How's it like? What's it like to drive on the right-hand side? Do you shift with your left? Are the pedals changed? I mean, it is a great way to meet people. I will say that.
Absolutely. And then if you go and you get a pretty wild paint job on it, that makes it stand out even more. But I like driving right-hand drive cars. I mean, it takes a little bit getting used to, but it's not difficult.
Yeah, absolutely. It does take some getting used to, and the one thing is, if you're on a 2-lane road, passing is a little bit hairy, but we're generally not passing a whole lot of people in ours. So.
Well, it's funny. I do a military safety seminar, and we throw a lot of videos out there. And one of them is a guy driving a right-hand drive car, and his wife is sitting next to him, and she's got a steering wheel. And they'll pass somebody, and then she'll jerk the steering wheel left and right just to watch the reaction of the guy next to her.
Exact story with that is we've had some of our friends who have had kids sit in the front passenger side in the van and put like a little kid steering wheel on there.
Yeah.
And, and just freaks people out because they're like, what?
That is awesome. That's awesome. So you got any trips planned for the new little buggy, or what do you got coming up?
Well, as far as the van, I mean, due to COVID, we've been, respecting like the stay-at-home orders and the, not traveling unless you absolutely have to. So we really honestly haven't gone far at all or many places. Usually we're at a lot of different trail events, off-roading shows, overlanding events, things like that. But so we're not quite sure. I mean, the van's been at Wanderlust Overland for the last couple of days. We'll be there for next week. So we're finally now, as parts start to come in, a lot of them have been delayed, but as the parts start coming in, so we're very busy in the build phase of it. That being said, is I may be heading out here in a week, 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks to the Rebel Rally to cover potentially as media again, which is, you and I have talked about Rebel Rally, 1,500-mile off-road women's rally with just, map and a compass. So I might be doing that myself. But other than that, the only other thing on my docket that I think is still running is the Overland Challenge that Southern Expedition holds in North Carolina. And that's going to be, I believe, the beginning of November, and that's Overland Challenge again is the name. So that's to be determined depending on flights and how COVID reacts and what's all going on. So I'm kind of staying fluid and just kind of going with the flow right now.
Well, and it's really kind of a blessing in disguise, because now you have time to put into the new van. Nobody's under any pressure. Wonderland doesn't have to get, they're not, on a deadline, and they can do it and take their time. And of course, with the COVID and parts, it's almost like a blessing in disguise.
Yeah, we do have the ability to get more stuff done. I can't tell you how many times I've had a pending show, whether it's Easter Jeep Safari or Overland Expo or whatnot, and I'm burning the candle at both ends trying to get this vehicle, trail worthy before we go. And that is one thing that we don't have to worry about. I do need to rebuild the front end on one of our other Pajeros, just some new bushings, and I got one of the CV boots tore, so I need to do that. But the good news is it's all in due time on that.
Sure.
And I think the other side of the coin though is a lot of the fab shops, a lot of the people that have, parts and accessories for camping or overlanding or, off-roading, any of those types of things some of them slowed down just a bit because of COVID, but now so many people want to get out. They're insanely busy.
I know.
So it's like, we have time to work on the van, but for instance, Wanderlust is really busy with, working on their own rigs, working on other people's rigs, and those, Mule Expedition Outfitters and, the other locals that we have here and just in, our area. But so many people are just, gangbusters busy, whether they're parts suppliers or fab shops.
We took a camping trip over July, 4th of July week, and
remote, just with one other vehicle.
Yeah, way out in the boonies in Oregon, and it was incredible on the way home when we hopped on I-5 north. Every third vehicle was pulling a trailer, and those trailers all had brand new temporary tags on them or dealer plates on them still, because they were so new. There's so many people getting out there, and it's one of the few things you can do right now is go camping and go exploring and all that, as long as you stay out of the fire zones and whatnot.
Yeah. No, it's you're absolutely right, and it's a time that like you said, we have to respect other folks, but going out where you guys go, where it's only you and the woolly bears, I think is okay.
Yeah, we've only done that. I think 5 nights out over 4th of July week, and I think other than we would come to we'd run across a campground and it would be jam packed with people. But otherwise,
we won't stay there.
There were tons of people in organized campgrounds. But when we were camping off grid,
we basically pack all of our stuff in and out. We camp where nobody else is, and we primitive camp. So, we social distance with one other van owner during that. And then over Labor Day, Andy, you and I just went out with our van for a couple of days, again, in the middle of nowhere, just the two of us, and packed in and packed out, brought all of our own food, had the diesel already, so we really minimized any impact that we had. But those are the only trips we've done since March, since that big, huge Arctic rally. So it's pretty nuts.
Yeah, especially when you're used to going a lot and camping out a lot, and all of a sudden, of course, when you do finally get to do it, you definitely appreciate it a lot more than you did in the past. So now you guys, best way to follow you is Crankshaft Culture on Instagram?
Crankshaft Culture on Instagram, Facebook, same thing. Crankshaft Cult on Twitter. We have a YouTube channel, and of course, crankshaftculture.com.
So what is Subcompact Culture? Is that another one you're working on?
That's another blog. We've had that blog since about 2008. It's all about small cars. And Crankshaft Culture is more about all kinds of pretty much any vehicle, but sort of skews towards adventure vehicles. Subcompact Culture, we started back when small cars were really taking off. Small cars are kind of simmering down, if you will, in the U.S. market right now, so there's not quite as much to talk about, especially on the new car side. But we still have a very active Facebook group on
community.
Thank you, on subcompact culture. And we still do post on subcompactculture.com, but yeah, we've got a lot of history over 10 years on that page.
Right.
Well, it's funny, when I was in high school in the 60s, everybody was driving Chevys, Fords, and Chrysler products, right? Great big boats with big engines. I had a group. I drove an Austin Healey Bug-Eyed Sprite. There was an MGA, a TD, a TF, and a TC, and we would terrorize the big guys because they could never catch us because we were small. And I've always been a small car person. I don't know what it is, and it's kind of like you guys. You know, you get drawn to them, or you get drawn to the unusual car, and it's just something that, you know, not that you want to be different than anybody else, but you just I like the technology, I like the engineering. You know, I just like what they do with a small car, and I've always had more fun in them than I have a big car. But that's me.
Right. Yep.
All right. Well, I tell you what, I'm looking forward to hearing some more down the road. Mercedes, since you're going to do the Rebel, are you going to do it on a day-by-day reporting, or are you going to go down and write an article for future? If so, how could people follow you during that event, or have you got that set up yet?
It's all in flux right now, so I'm not 100% sure yet.
Gotcha.
I've been, said yes, I'm invited to go down. I don't know if, how long, when, how, all of that, hopefully in the next week or so will be determined. The rally itself starts, I believe it's October 8th through the 17th or 18th, so it's coming up very quickly. Mm-hmm. If I do end up going down and it's confirmed, people can follow me via Instagram at Mercedes_Lilienthal. That's LILIENTHAL. That's my personal Instagram, or via Crankshaft Culture.
Gotcha.
Those are probably the two easiest places to find out where I'm writing, what articles for, which publications regarding Rebel Rally, or, doing any stories or things like that if we have service. Might be a lot of times out in the middle of nowhere without service. So.
Yeah, you never know. So throw a shout out to your folks helping you build your vehicles.
Yeah, you bet. So DF Goodrich, we're running their KO2 tires. Coastal Off-Road, they're Canadian. They're running we have their front and rear bumper and skid plate, as well as their swing-away tire carrier jerry can. Long Range America, distributor of Long Range Automotive Australian fuel tanks. Wanderlust Overland in Oregon City, Light Force USA for lights, and of course, Warren Industries for all of your winching needs.
All right. Well, that sounds like a lot of fun. We look forward to talking to you guys down the road. You guys be safe, stay healthy, and we'll talk to you down the road.
Sounds great, Dave.
Awesome.
Good talking with you.
Thanks for having us.
All right. Our pleasure. All right, folks. Well, hey, coming up next, I've got some great interviews. I've talked to Chad Callender from Ford Ranger, marketing manager. They're going to come out with a 2020 Ford Ranger Tremor. Yeah, that's right. That thing ought to be bad to the bone. And then, of course, we've got Christian Barclay. She is going to be chatting with us as well, and she's going to be discussing the Chevy Trailblazer. She finally got herself into that. And then Brian Armstead is going to talk about the Subaru Crosstrek. And then I've got a great interview with Courtney Janes. She's executive director of Infinite Heroes, and they've got a coin program you will be interested in. So don't go anywhere. We're just going to take a quick break on FM 96.1, AM 1170, The Answer.